Hello and welcome back to AWS On Air, live from Las Vegas and reInvent. This is the show where we get to interview all the greatest minds inside AWS and in the ecosystem around AWS. My name is Nathan Peck, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Yep, my name is Jillian Ford, and I'm a startup solutions architect.
And I'm Sam Nicholls, Director of Public Cloud at Veeam Software.
All right, so tell us more about Veeam Software. Give us the elevator pitch for why folks who are interested in AWS should be excited about Veeam.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, I think anyone that has been around VMware has probably heard of Veeam, right? We pioneered agentless backup for VMware environments, but that was 16 years ago, right? And a lot has changed. A lot has changed in our customer environment since then. You know, a lot of workloads are being shifted to the cloud. Cloud has quickly become the de facto standard for net new applications and workloads. And it was important that we were able to provide a data protection use case for them in AWS as well.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about with the movements in the market. What are you seeing in terms of trends in the market and in the customer environments, which Veeam can actually help with in this case?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest one that we see right now is hybridity and flexibility or fluidity, let's call it. So hybridity being, users are having an on-premises data center, virtualized workloads, maybe containerized workloads in the data center, and then they're utilizing AWS, maybe it's like EC2, RDS, EFS, whatever it might be. And with these very different environments, the way that you protect those environments is also very different, right? From a physical machine to a virtual machine to an EC2 workload. And in these, because of the way that these environments need to be protected differently, we're seeing on average customers having 3 different backup products. And now we don't have parity across all of our environments, none of them talk to one another, it's complex, we have to learn multiple products. It's a nightmare, right? So Veeam is really there to help provide a native data protection tool set for each of these environments, so you get that best-in-class backup and recovery, but unify it under a single platform, and a single control plane, I guess.
That makes sense to me. So I have some stateful things, I have some stateless things, I have different types of compute like a container or a VM or maybe even an on-premise application perhaps powered by VMware. And I don't want to have to set up 5 different rules and 5 different pieces of software to do backups.
Yeah, backup is, it's kind of like taxes, right? It's not something that you necessarily want to do, but
it has to work right, because if it doesn't, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about backup, right? But I think like the big thing to talk about is recovery. That's why you're doing it. So when something goes wrong, how quickly can you get stuff back up and running again, right?
And you were saying earlier about data protection. Can you tell us more about how Veeam focuses on data protection?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we can look at it through a lens of, yes, backup is part of data protection. Sure, there are other technologies that we can leverage there, like replication, continuous data protection, so on and so forth. But I think like the big piece is to really understand how backup and data protection are critical to any kind of cybersecurity strategy as well, right? I mean, I don't need to tell you guys that ransomware threats are just everywhere. I think it's like 80-some% of businesses have suffered a ransomware attack now. And I think when we often think about security, we think about it from a preventative perspective, right? Stopping people from getting into the environment. But the thing about ransomware is it's relentless, right? These bad actors have an infinite number of attempts on your environment, and they only have to be right once. As the good guys, we've got to stop them every single time. And we're all human, we're all fallible. Sometimes they get in. So to have that secure backup as well to help recover in the event of a successful ransomware attack is critical.
And I assume that the cloud also complicates us a bit, because now folks are empowered to create their own IT. They're not going through a centralized IT manager. Developers are actually go out there and spinning up resources on their own, but that means that they have to get all those settings right, and they aren't necessarily going to get the settings right or get the backups set up right unless they have some help.
Yeah, absolutely. Like shadow IT can be a real pain. I mean, it even happened on premises, right? And I think you're right. In the cloud, governance can become a little bit more difficult because I can go and create an account, put my credit card in, and I can start spinning up whatever services I want. So the approach that we take there is really policy-based automation. We typically use a dedicated backup account to isolate backups from production data.
Oh, interesting.
And then we utilize the IAM rules to go out and look within the region and within the entire environment. And as these new workloads come online, automatically apply that policy to them.
So Veeam is going to collect the data from, this department's AWS account that they spun up and store it in a centralized, secured AWS account, if I'm understanding correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we use the APIs that AWS present to us. Kind of, let's call it first line of defense is to utilize the native snapshot.
Nice.
But at that point, we also then can take an image-based backup of that snapshot and store it in Amazon S3 and all the different tiers of S3. And of course, that has a big cost impact. I was watching AWS on earlier around cost optimization as well. And backup is all about data. We're creating data. And
Yeah.
we see a lot of customers trying. They're either balancing retention or they're trying to balance retention with their budgets, right? Sometimes regulatory compliance dictates I have to keep this data for 5 years. You do that as a snapshot, it gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. But if you can tier that off onto, S3 Glacier, where we're talking fractions of a cent per gig per month, I can now retain that data without blowing out my budgets and overspend.
Yeah, and then I guess about the ransomware and I guess security protection, is there anything specific, I guess, at Veeam? I know I was looking on the website and it seems like ransomware is a topic that really comes up. So is there something specific that Veeam does to address?
Yeah, I think if we discuss it specifically with AWS, I mentioned having a dedicated account for backup so we can have the logical separation between production and protection. Managing least privilege access through IAM. We can also do role-based access control, multi-factor authentication. The big one is immutability, right? Being able to leverage Amazon S3 object lock. So we have that write once, read many state. Once that backup has been committed to S3, no one can go in and change it, delete it, and now I've got that data secure. So if ransomware were to come in and try and encrypt it, they're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
And speaking of encryption, KMS as well. And I think encryption is becoming, it's almost table stakes, right? Encryption's been around for forever. But I feel like it's often overlooked in ransomware because these attacks are evolving to become exfiltration attacks because they're realizing they're not getting their ransom because people are just recovering from a clean backup. Well, now they're just saying, okay, well, then we'll leak this personally identifiable, sensitive information on the internet if you don't pay the ransom. So encryption is critical. So not only can they not change the file, but they can't read it or access it either.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how do folks get started with Veeam if they want to get hands-on, try out this product out?
Yeah, we always have free editions of all of our products for all environments. The same goes for AWS, as well as containerized Kubernetes, EKS, ECS. So same place as everywhere, AWS Marketplace, right? So we've got the free edition available on the AWS Marketplace. It allows you to protect up to 10 instances. Again, that's EC2, RDS, EFS, VPCs. Yep. And there's no limitations in terms of time, no limitations in terms of features or restores, just 10 for free, irrespective of the size of the database or file share.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I assume that applies at the instance level. So if I'm running like multiple containers on an instance, it would still count as one instance for
we utilize nodes for Kubernetes. That's actually our Kasten K10 product, so it would be separate to that one.
Nice. Yeah, I got to ask because I work in the container side of AWS. And that's such a common question that I see folks ask. Is this pricing going to go on the container level or on the host level? Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah.
So this sounds amazing. We'll definitely drop that link into the chat for folks who want to try out Veeam. And thank you very much for telling us about this product today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.